Hello, welcome to Airing It Out. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jonas.
And this is Jerry, and today we're going to be talking about the Terminator franchise.
Whoa, exciting stuff.
Yeah, so we sat through all of them
All
the
of
last
them.
couple days. Managed to find Dark Fate.
Definitely enjoyed
Amazon
some
Prime.
more than others.
Definitely. This is the first time you'd seen most of them?
Yeah, so I've seen 3 and
4.
4, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd seen all of them
Yes,
except
3 and 4 not.
6.
Yes.
Because 6 only came out last year, then the whole world fell apart.
It's actually a pretty long-standing franchise if you think about it. Like
Yeah.
it's getting close to something like Star Wars.
Well, just about. It's like in the 80s.
Yeah.
So,
Well done for that.
although
be honest.
far less consistent and successful.
And
So yeah.
obviously less films.
Yes.
Yes.
Shall we start with the first one?
Yes, let's start with the first one.
Very good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically a horror film.
It is a space where, like, it definitely starts with the whole, like, it's dark and you don't see anything except skulls getting crushed. So it definitely establishes I don't know if it's, like, horror, but it definitely establishes a terrifying vibe.
I think it's that, especially like if you think of horror at that time, it's like someone's being chased.
Yeah.
And it is very much someone is being chased by something that's out to kill them.
Yes.
I don't think the action in it is anything to write home about. Maybe the shootout in the police station.
Yeah?
But apart from that, I'd say everything else is very much kind of like survival.
Yeah. It's very much
hunter
hunter-killer.
which is what the flying things are called.
I think that's a ridiculous name for something. Hunter-killer.
Like, yeah,
What?
it hunts you and it kills you.
HK, yeah. that's kind of what hunters do.
Yeah, but no, I think there's a couple janky stop motion bits.
Yeah.
Especially like the future scenes where you're a bit like, oof. Or when he's got his like head, he's doing a bit,
no.
and he's like a rubber man.
Yeah.
But I think
that's like, I mean, as often as we say, like, use practical when you can use practical,
Yeah.
that was bad
Rough.
practical. But I'm sure if they would have animated it, it would have been worse.
so much worse. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I question the decision of just doing that overall.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
fair
just
enough.
seeing that
I
angle.
think like just like if you watch films like E.T. and they use puppets
Yeah.
and stuff,
Yeah.
like I think it is way more passable for a film of that time. It's just like watching it now is like
I think it holds up. Apart from that, I think the rest of the film holds up pretty well.
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
So like if you're going back to watch it for the first time, I think it's
Be
fine. Like it
aware
is
that that's-
watchable, but there's one or two bits where you have to go, this was the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, works. And I think in terms of, like, I'll say, so the films deal with time travel, all of them.
Yeah.
They do write themselves into a hole, but that hole is smaller in the first 3 films. Or 4 films, actually.
It's just less annoying. It's
Yeah.
I mean, it's glaring. It is.
I feel like,
to
though,
me-
the problems in the first 4
Yeah.
are the same as every movie that ever deals with time travel ever.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
that if you come back, can you change the future that never was? And you're
Yes.
like, okay, fine. That's always going to be a problem.
Yes.
No one can ever deal with it. That's
Especially
fine.
because it's the same problem. Like
Yeah.
it is the one issue, because the first 4 films kind of also only deal with that one.
Yeah, they go back and change the future. There's no
Yeah.
changing pasts.
Oh,
So
let's start.
yeah, we'll get there. But in terms of like in time travel problems, it's the same as every movie with time travel, but it's no
Yeah.
worse
yeah,
than any
it's-
movie.
Yeah. So the whole like ripple effect, or is it possible not to change?
Yeah. So their whole thing is
Yeah.
the future is inevitable. But
Yeah. I don't know. I just find it to be a strange thing for the whole plot to actually revolve around going back in time to create the person who changes the future, because
Yeah.
the plot is him saving Sarah Connor, Kyle Reese saving Sarah Connor from the Terminator, but then the two of them become
Yeah.
a couple,
And
whatever.
give birth to John,
Produce
who is the leader of the resistance.
conceive John. Yeah, so like only his traveling back in time actually allows for the future for the current future to happen. So that just does not make sense.
Yeah, it's a loop for sure.
No, but how did the loop even start when?
The first time.
No.
This is the thing with time travel, though. I think you just have to go, okay, there's an inherent problem with time travel.
There's a huge problem, though, because, like...
But I think that's the thing, like, because you can't... It doesn't work, you know? Like, there's no way to explain it, so you kind of go...
No, but
sure.
it makes way more sense in terms of, like, a looper, where the character exists and then gets sent back, and when he kills his former self, the older self dies as well, because
Yes.
like he would never get to
Although,
that
the
point.
scene in Looper where they really tried to explain it,
Yeah.
Bruce Willis does straight up say, don't worry about it, you won't be able to wrap your head around it, and they pass it off in the diner scene.
Okay, yeah.
So in terms of the nitty-gritty, like, what would happen if old Bruce Willis came back and fathered a child? Would that child suddenly magically appear in the future? Or would that live out? Is not clarified.
No, but I think in Terminator 4, the father of this kid to not ever actually exist before the kid is born. This is the thing,
it's 100% a loop,
time.
but I don't think it's a more problematic loop than films like Looper or...
To me, it's way more problematic.
I don't think it's good. In Looper rules itself, in terms of the movie, sure. But the whole thing that Looper works is that you kill them as soon as they come back in time.
Yeah.
So you never run into that problem. But in terms of the rules that the world sets up, the problem still exists.
Yeah, no, but to me, it's like, it's not an actual loop, you know? Because it has a start with John Connor that shouldn't be
well,
possible.
the loop has a start that can't get to, but as soon as you have Kyle Reese going back in time to father John,
like,
it's circular.
Yes, then it is circular, but, like, that circle should never, ever be possible or
But
exist.
that'd be the same in the film Looper if... Like, the rules of time travel are almost identical in the film.
Yeah.
With the exception of if you shoot the young... Well, again, you don't have the younger and older versions existing at the same time, so we don't know.
So it would have to be an alternate future in order to send Kyle Reese back.
Yeah, but I think...
Okay, but that's like...
Yeah.
That's
I don't
it's
think...
an issue.
I don't think it's as any more problematic than any other time travel film in the first 4 Terminator movies. I think it's the same problem. You're always going to end up with a time loop that can't have a beginning.
Yes.
And
or can't have that, because it doesn't.
Yeah. But I don't think, in terms of, you've got Looper, which a lot of people praise, and I mean, there's a whole host of films that deal with time travel. I don't think it's any more problematic than them. They all have stupid rules, even Avengers these days, where they're like, you just can't do anything as long as you put it back in the same way, and you're like, sure,
the stones
fine.
have to end up in the same
you know,
place.
Back to the Future. They've all got problems, but if you can sustain that disbelief, which you should be able to, because there's machines.
Because there's Terminator.
Yeah, like, you know, there's an element of fantasy, so I don't have a problem with that personally.
No, it's just like, to me, it was like, he goes back in time and he's the father, and I was like, that would not work, but okay.
Yeah, you have to just...
But okay, you know, just like, that is one thing where I'm like, that would not work, but fine. Just, yeah.
Yeah, you have to just go. I mean, it's a film. You know, there's tons of stuff that happens in every movie where you just go, sure, fine.
No, but I think it's way easier for me to be like, okay, Terminators exist and machines and that kind of stuff exists is much easier than to be like, you are constructing a reality that is, in the way that you are constructing it, impossible. So, like, it is very hypocritical, you know? In that
but this
sense.
thing, because they don't flesh out the time travel rules.
Yes.
And I think most good time travel films don't.
Yes.
Because you get very convoluted. So by not fleshing that out, I think they escape the problem. Because from our world logic, we go, yeah, okay, that's silly.
Yeah.
But in a film, if they're just like, don't worry about it. For me, I'm like, okay, that's the filmmakers telling me.
I think that's
not
where
to worry
we
about
start
it.
to run into problems later on, because they do try and flesh out and bring in
100%.
They bring in time travel rules, and then you're like, okay, now you are actually setting up rules.
Yeah, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
But
no, for the first 4 films, it's the usual time travel rules.
Yes.
They're not problematic. He's just fussy. And
Wait. if you agree.
I mean, yeah. The thing is, if you said, okay, we can't make films like that, then stuff like T2 wouldn't be a thing. And
you can totally make films like that.
No, but without the Terminator, T2 wouldn't exist.
Yeah. And
I'm glad that it does.
Okay, yeah.
So...
No, I'm 2.
Yeah.
I am 2.
2.
No, but just don't have John Connor send Kyle Reese back. Have someone, like, John Connor doesn't exist in the future, but the future knows that John Connor will be, like, the future that they show at the very beginning is failing, crumbling, and that's why they send someone back.
Future. I mean, this is ridiculous. We don't need to get into this, but maybe that's the future if John Connor exists, because we see in the 6th film what can happen otherwise. So it does work without him, so it's not necessary for him to be born. Yeah. So it'd just be a substitute. So maybe the future we're seeing in the past is actually the future of the film, not the guaranteed future that has to be made by Kyle Reese.
Ah, yeah.
So actually, it's still time travel problems, but it's not as problematic as you think, and definitely is no more problematic than any other time travel film. In ignoring 5. 5 messes with everything.
Nope.
So you're fine.
We should just leave that because it's not gonna get resolved. Yes, T2.
Terminator's fine. I think it set up the franchise. There's not much to be said about it.
It definitely also sets up the iconic stuff, with
every line.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is just iconic, which is yes, I don't think he's a great actor, but
good governor though, because they're transferable skills.
I don't know. There's a couple people like that, but I would say the quota is not actor makes a good...
No, I think in terms of a 70s and 80s action star,
he
fit the bill perfectly.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. He's not a great actor in terms of I wouldn't say he's versatile at all. And even in most action
he's the same
roles,
character.
he's not that good. But as a Terminator, brilliant, because he is robotic AF.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it works. It's yeah.
I was impressed. And I also like how they play on you expecting him to be the bad guy in the second one.
Oh yeah.
So that's really cool. Well done. Because you've got Robert Patrick, who is the T-1000.
Yeah.
Obviously, full spoilers. Well done.
I was actually quite surprised because we had talked about the Terminator and the T-1000 in a previous video about him not flinching.
He doesn't blink
firing.
in our Resident Evil video. We talked about it.
Yeah. So for me to not have picked up on that,
I was a
bad guy.
Did you not realize?
No, I didn't.
I was glad you didn't.
So it was actually a surprise.
Because I did worry that when I was talking about it, and then I was like, because he learned to shoot without blinking.
Yeah.
And also he practiced stripping a gun fully, magazine, and then the slider and all that stuff, and putting it back together blindfolded, so that his movements were more robotic.
Yeah.
He learned to not breathe while running, so he could run without moving at all, in terms of his body.
Yeah, so he's just doing
and all his head motions are based on eagles and stuff. So he's super... Yeah, he put a lot of work in, and
it shows.
It really, really shows. And I also think as well,
yeah,
the fact that he is in terms of build, the same as Kyle Reese. You just assume, okay, Terminator, you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is massive, and then you've got, Robert Patrick comes in, you're like, okay, right, it's going to be a similar kind of thing, except this time we've got John Connor.
He just looks more human.
Yeah.
Which
until
is so
he doesn't,
smart,
though, because the way he moves isn't human at all. But in terms of, physicality, and then you get revealed. What I find hilarious, though, is in the trailer, that's revealed. And that's something the franchise does all the time. Every time they've got a big twist, they reveal it in the trailers.
I'm so glad I haven't seen, because there's a couple good twists, when it comes to the Terminators
no, for sure. But no, I think he did an exceptional. And also in terms of visual effects,
so much better
up.
Yeah,
I would say.
Oh yeah,
the film's definitely it is a late 80s, early 90s film in terms of how everyone is and how they're acting, what they're wearing and stuff. But in terms of visual effects, I don't think it's dated badly at all.
Yeah. It's very good, for sure.
Yeah, it's tense. I'd say it's the best action of all of them. for me anyway. Like the motorbike chase, they've got the music pumping, and you actually care about the characters. You've had just enough time to care about the characters.
Yeah.
So you have that attachment, and obviously you know who John Connor is from the first film, so you don't need to set up that too much.
Yeah.
And it's pumping, and you know you're like, okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger's not in the same league as the T-1000. You know.
Yep.
This is gonna be a fight.
that raises the stakes, you know, because we all know they have to fight as a group in order to actually
win. And then the mistrust that Sarah Connor has for Arnie is perfect, because obviously she's traumatized.
Yeah.
You know, from the first film. So that's really cool. I think they do a really good job.
They're definitely playing each other.
Yeah. And I think the problem they have is if you try and one-up it every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, they have the T-1000, which is like a prototype, you know, liquid metal, and that's cool. But how do you go above that? Because then you start to think, well, if they have these things, why don't they send them back in the first movie instead of just sending Arnie? You know?
Yeah, why don't they redo Arnie with a better prototype?
Yeah, because, I mean, they always try and scale it up. So you're like, okay, why wouldn't you just send... Because, you know, Kyle Reese against the T-1000, that's not a fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you're fine. Or any of the new Terminators they've got in the later films, you're like, yeah, okay, that's no problem.
Yeah.
So definitely.
That's actually quite interesting, because they're always like, okay, our assassination attempt of Sarah Connor failed, so we're going to try someone else, rather than we're going to try again with a better
Or just send another one at the same time period, so now there's two Arnies.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess they do get into that later on.
Yes, that's true. But, no, I think T2, brilliant movie.
Oh, yeah, very good. Definitely.
I can't follow it. I think the kid does really well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of cheesiness going on with him and Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I think it's totally cool. Yeah, I get like Real Steel or you know those and I'm on
robot boxing movie if you missed that.
Yeah.
One obscure film with Hugh Jackman.
I actually quite enjoy that.
I really like it too, but I don't think it's referenceable.
No, but just the whole like a kid and a machine. I don't know, you even have it in Big Hero 6.
I love Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
It's great.
I don't know, that's just a kind of vibe.
It's a dynamic that works really well.
Yeah.
And I also think like it dates the film, like the slang that John Connor's teaching Arnold, but that's fine. Like it's the 90s movies, you know, and that's cool.
More iconic lines, which is brilliant.
More, and the ones that are in the last film they bring back, which is something that becomes a trope, obviously, but I think they do it really well. And also you notice it watching other films where like people are like, oh, get in, and you're like, you could say come with me if you want to live.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously like if you're gonna say it, you might as well just do it, you know.
Yeah.
So no, props to them for that.
Ooh, it's my tummy that's rumbling.
We missed lunch.
Oh, I don't know, it's before
lunchtime.
It is
okay.
Right around.
Not relevant. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.
This one I have actually seen.
Same. It's definitely the one I've seen the least.
Well, it's definitely the one I've seen
apart from 5 and 6. I guess. It's a spoof, I think.
You think?
I think so. I mean, they've got him with like the star glasses out of like a strip club to begin with.
Yeah,
so Arnie
I mean, it is trying to be more funny.
And to be honest, I think a few of the jokes land. Like I it was good. I think going in with that mindset of being like, okay, they've set up the kind of Terminator in 1, they've increased the tropes and stuff in 2, and kind of set this is going to be the way it is.
Yeah.
And then to kind of play off that, so you're like, okay, his all-leather outfit he gets from a, you know, gangster thug in a bar or whatever is now from a stripper. Yeah.
So they must have sat in a room and they're like, okay, he's got his outfit from a punk, he's got the leather from like a rock
smoker bar.
Yeah, so where else can we get leather jackets from?
Like strip clubs.
Yeah.
But I think like it is funny and it's different. So I think if they tried to do the same again, it would just be the same again, but with older John instead of Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
So props them for that. The plot gets a bit more in depth because obviously they destroy Skynet, they think, in the second one. So they've got another way to introduce that, which is different. It's not a company, it's like the military. Yeah. Cool. So I think they do a good job there.
Yeah, definitely also up the action.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's less
bigger
tense. I don't know.
stuff.
I find it a lot less engaging.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the TX having like weapons
Yeah.
kind of lowers in, like, it's meant to raise the stakes, I get that, but if she's got
Yeah,
edge
yeah.
weapons that could just rip through Arnie, then it's
Yeah.
always like they're kind of running, but all these fights are quite...
That's true. Then we return to the whole just run and hide game of
Yeah.
the first Terminator film.
but with a Terminator,
Yeah.
you know, on your team, so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, they can't fight because it just isn't an even
It's
thing.
not at all an even match.
Which is a shame.
What
but
do you
I
think of the Terminator?
the
the
TX?
TX,
the girl. Yeah, she obviously had a huge task following up from Arnie, who is super tough, and then Robert Patrick, who is just a dude. To follow up from that is obviously going to be really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like they did a good job.
I think she does sell the robot.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely not human.
Yeah. Which is like that's kind of all I need. Like
Yeah.
I have to look at the Terminators and be like, "Yep, I can
Not a
tell
person.
you are not
Yeah.
human." Yeah. And that's, I don't know. That's all I would need, and then it's like action scenes are fine.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't watch it for that though.
I would watch T2.
T2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to get the CPUs and stuff, and
Oh, and so when they go to Skynet, and
Yeah.
he gets the minigun, and then he's like got their tear gas launcher, and he just kneecaps everyone with it.
yeah,
It's great. Like, it's really
yeah,
good.
It's good action for sure.
And not even like dated action where it's kind of slow and long, slow takes.
Mm.
It's pretty punchy.
Yeah.
Um,
Although in all those films, they do have like, also very early on in the film, they just have like one shot that's slow motion, but not at a higher frame rate, so it's like very
it's
choppy slow
stuttery.
motion.
Yeah.
And like, why? Because they definitely could have done like proper
I mean, that's
slow
old
motion.
school slow mo though. That's just how
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
you
but
know?
it's like they carried on throughout the film.
Yeah, I wonder if that's another thing of just like trope kind of.
I
This
guess.
is,
I
it is
guess
an old franchise.
it's the same look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. I think it's just one of those things that every time it comes up, you go, would have done with a
It's
higher
weird.
frame rate, but
Yeah.
okay. I mean, to be fair, I think that of most films, whenever there's a shot that pans and tracks at the same time, I'm always like, just double the frame rate. No one will notice. It won't look like the buses are teleporting.
That's also your gaming eye just wanting super smooth.
I want everything to be smooth. It looks more realistic. Because stuff's
No.
smooth in real life.
No.
It doesn't look film. Like, it's... For me,
Okay.
the frame rate... If it doesn't matter, like, when just normal shots, 24 does fine, obviously. But I think a film looks more like it's shot on film. And is movie-esque.
Yeah.
But as soon as stuff stutters, that takes me
Yes.
out of the movie and makes me go, okay, I'm watching a movie. It is cinematic,
Yeah.
but not realistic. Because in real life, when you see a car pass as you do this, the car doesn't teleport.
Like it could be blurry, like there's motion blur.
Sure.
But not staggered.
Yeah, and I think you get motion blur when the camera is still or doing smaller moves and
Mhm.
something is moving. That's
Mhm.
natural.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get, things moving too fast and stuff starts to like jitter,
Yeah.
that's when
Yeah. No.
for me I'm like, okay, no, don't make it like 150 frames like a video game where
Yeah.
you want everything to be super smooth and you can see everything at once.
Mhm.
But also doubling it to like 48 wouldn't really hurt.
And I mean, it also doesn't hurt. Well, it doesn't hurt. Obviously, you just get a lot of data, which sometimes
you can film
can't.
it more.
Yeah,
Like
you
just-
can't handle. But like, it wouldn't hurt to shoot everything in 48 frames per second and just
take
pick-
every second frame.
Yeah, if you
Um,
don't need it, take every second frame. If you do need it, then you have the footage, you have the data. But obviously, you would also have to have the ability to just.
But these
punch out
films have
terabytes.
hundreds of millions.
Oh, yeah.
But they could have done it.
I'm just thinking like
Um,
in Germany, maybe.
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
it's
but-
a different issue. Like,
Sure.
we can't just blow out this much.
No, definitely. It'd be what I would do if I was filming an action or fast-paced film. I would definitely,
yes.
for the benefit of the doubt, film in that. And not every scene, but definitely It's like aspect ratio. Yes, it's more cinematic to cut in like this, but I want to see more of the frame. You know, I don't care. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
Because you're not making the frame wider by cutting here. You're just cutting something. You know, so it's not like it gives you the illusion of like a wider.
Yeah.
But you can just have more.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, that's definitely a preference.
Okay.
For sure, and also like, yeah, I don't know. Motion blur in itself, I think, is odd because
no,
like,
but if you know you're gonna shoot scenes that are, with a lot of motion, like I mean, yes, action films obviously, but they also have slow scenes.
Yeah.
So if you know you're gonna have a lot of fast-paced scenes, like with lots of motion going on, then why not? You know it's gonna happen. So
no, for sure. And I think as soon as you get too much motion blur in an action scene, it becomes disorientating. Which,
oh yes.
I mean, Terminator 3 doesn't do, so good for them. I think it's pre-shaky cam era, just so they got away with it before Jason Bourne came about, Bourne Identity, and just ruined cinema.
Which works for some films.
Oh, yeah, if it's done right. But I think it's a very easy way for not good directors to film anyone as action. Like, look at Taken. You got Liam Neeson, who's past his prime. No, for sure. Like, you know, he's an older guy.
I like Taken.
Okay, but there is like a bazillion cuts in that movie.
I don't like Taken 2 or 3.
Okay, good. I've never actually seen Taken 3. I think by that point I was like, nope. But no, like all the fight scenes, they've got everything super sped up, so it looks like he's really cool. Whereas I think
it's such an easy way to not do it right, because you're like, no one will actually see it, which is not what you want to do. Obviously, film, you want people to see it, and if you make the choice to have like fast cuts or like shaky cam, then you better have a good reason for that.
It needs to be really clear. Like I think Bourne Identity does a good job of that. You can see everything. Whereas definitely Terminator 3 is much more slow paced with the action. It's a bit
because it is the running and hiding. You know.
Yeah.
Like you don't want them to meet, and they do meet like three times.
Yeah. To be fair, actually, I would say Terminator 3 is the least memorable, even including the last 3 films. There's nothing that really stands out other than it made me laugh a couple times.
Fair. I don't know.
Yeah, I think talking about camera stuff.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoy the aesthetic of Terminator 4 Salvation.
Yes.
I like it.
It is. You think it's the prettiest?
I do think it's the prettiest. I think the cinematography is tip top. It's for the first, not the last half hour.
You could tell that after the first 3, they definitely had big bucks to make that film, because they have so many.
It was $200 million budget for the
A-listers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have better actors, and that means that probably in all regards they spent more money, or could spend more money.
This was the year that Sam Worthington acted.
Oh yes.
The only year he's ever acted. So he's the guy that did...
Not quite true, but...
Not quite
in
true.
terms of what came out.
So he did like Clash of the Titans, Avatar, and Terminator, Man on a Ledge, and then never acted again.
Yeah.
He is in stuff, but much more low-key than huge blockbuster Hollywood films. But no, so he does a good job. Christian Bale does a great job.
Oh yeah.
Especially stepping into a role that 4 different actors have played at this point.
Yes. It was such a weird thing of like, okay, John Connor is a different actor in every single film.
Every single film. Even old John Connor is a different John Connor every time. So that's why they got him the scar. So it's like, it's John Connor.
He's actually only the same actor in the 6th one in the flashback. It's the same kid.
It's a different actor. Obviously, the kid's bazillion years old by now. It's a really... But he's always at a distance. But yeah, it's a different kid. Sadly, the kid that played the kid in T2 kind of went off the rails.
Oh.
Yeah, a quite sad story.
Oops.
But that's quite common for child stars. Yeah. So
yeah, I'm doing vodcasts with you now off the rails.
Honestly, I think your career peaked 10 years ago. Welcome to YouTube.
I don't know.
No. Definitely it's funny to have John Connor as This is the peak of my career, so what does that really say?
Yeah, then I'm definitely going downhill.
Wow.
Just firing back, just getting very defensive right now. No, but really, the kid actually looked the same. So maybe they deep faked it, or
I reckon so. I mean, the kid film came out last year, so definitely the technology's there to do some.
Yeah, the kid is definitely
CG
older,
trickery.
and they do that a lot with.
No, but I mean like
Arnie.
CGI. So I think. Wait, let's not get to CGI Arnie yet.
Okay.
Terminator 4.
Yes.
The aesthetic is gorgeous. It's
Yes.
that.
It does look more grainy. Like you do get more, but that's also warranted because they're in the future where everything is blown up and
It's dusty.
it's dusty. It's post apocalypse, post Judgment Day, as they
It's
call it.
getting Resident Evil 3 vibes.
Yeah. So it makes sense and it works and I like it. You like it.
I like it. I think it actually got quite a bad rap.
Uh-huh.
I don't really see why. Like, yeah, the last bit is a little bit it just was this weak. It's a weekend to a movie.
Yeah.
But the whole surviving the machines and actually seeing, not like the later part where they all have laser guns, but early on when they're actually fighting the machines and how do they do it. I think it does that really well.
Yeah.
It's this very similar look to actually Resident Evil 3 or the Book of Eli.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of aesthetic of just dusty apocalypse.
Yeah.
No.
But also not overdone, It's like they are in the desert, but it's also not like walking through the desert for
It's
days.
like Mad Max, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not crazy. It still seems real.
Yeah. I like how. Well,
there are just some moments where I'm like that. No, it wouldn't do it. It's like when Christian Bale jumps into that hole while the guy is like securing him. So it's like he doesn't wait for the guy to secure him before he jumps. I'm like, yeah, first of all, you break your back. I would be like, secure me, tell me I'm secure, test it, and then jump into like 100-meter deep hole.
In saying that though, I do like how there are military leaders that are kind of higher ranking than John. They may not be as charismatic, but I think that's quite realistic. Like if you were like, oh, this is someone that survived the apocalypse in a bunker, but I'm a military general who's going to take charge, I think that's fair, that it wouldn't be John necessarily, but he still has the love of the people. Yeah,
because the people know the name John Connor.
Yeah.
And this is where we get into branding and why you should always create a brand for yourself.
Well, this I was going to say as well. I think the character Marcus, played by Sam Worthington, who again was spoiled in the trailer, so he's a Terminator, but essentially a Terminator.
Yeah, basically.
But that was in the trailer as well, which is a shame because that is a reveal.
It is definitely a reveal.
Halfway through, but I think for a character that is not introduced in any other film, like has no relations to anyone, he's done really well.
Yeah,
I definitely cared for him as a character. And when he sacrificed himself, it was very sad.
It was very sad.
But yeah, considering the film always revolves around Sarah Connor, John Connor, and Kyle Reese, and Arnie.
Yes.
It was impressive that they managed to put a new character in.
Yeah. No, for sure. I know. I was like, you do wonder who he is because he is a new character. So you're like, what is his point? What is he? And for him to actually sacrifice himself at the end is also a very good way to like keep it contained to that film.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't have to explain it, or like he didn't come up in previous films.
Yeah, like, why did they send back Kyle Reese and not Marcus? Because Marcus definitely would have kicked ass.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's there are some holes in the plot, in the story, just in terms of how John reacts to him, because obviously if it is the same timeline, then he must have grown up with the Terminator, having taught
his
him
father figure, and then protected him when he was old.
Exactly. So like, why he would be so against machines that seem human?
I guess because like the two that protect him were like reprogrammed to do that, and this is just some dude with a metal body, and you're like.
But they're also in the film doing the whole signal thing to reprogram.
It's just to
machines.
Inactivate them.
Yeah. But like, you are, it's all happening at the same time, so it's like, why? I don't know. But that's also like going at it from, assuming that they've all written the films, when there's definitely different writers.
Oh, for sure.
So they can know as much as
the audience knows. Yeah, I mean they definitely take some liberties. And no, I think that's fine. I think the film's good. I think Arnie doesn't need to be in it.
Yep.
I understand why he is, but CG Arnie's a little bit rough.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't think we are quite there yet. In was this 2009?
Yeah.
Skin just doesn't look like skin.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's only in for like the final fight, really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. He looks too young. He looks like super babyface.
Yeah.
Arnie. Which is weird that they would de-age him younger than
he is in
the first one.
I think they just didn't know what they're doing, so they smoothed him out, and then we're like, he's very smooth.
He's very smooth.
Cool. We'll just leave it at that. I think this is the first one as well that didn't go with an 18 rating.
Yeah.
The third one might be a 15, but
yeah.
It's definitely toned down.
Mm-hmm.
The action isn't, but the consequences of the action is.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot less
impaling.
Yes, a lot less impaling. But just I don't know. It's a shame because the franchise was, a hard 18.
I mean, that was definitely
film.
definitely part of it was that it is gruesome.
Yeah,
like
whereas they take that away, and I understand like this is when cinema tickets started to cost more, and there was more of an audience, so you needed to get the kid viewers.
Yeah.
But I think it's a shame. It could have been an adult franchise, but it's not.
Not of that sort. Yeah.
Well, no.
Yeah. No, but I think that was definitely the peak of the Terminator franchise.
I wouldn't say that's the peak, but T2.
I think, like, that is it's really hard because
Use the words.
Definitely no, I would say T2 is the best film. Oh, that's so difficult. But like
for me, okay, while you think
the fourth one is also like such a good film.
For me, it's T2.
Mm-hmm.
And then T2 only works as well as it does because of the first one. So it has to be T2 then T1. 3 is a spoof of them, so I do prefer 4 to 3.
Yeah.
So 4, 3, and then the other 2 that we'll get to.
6 and 5.
But no, so I think that's why it works. But for me, like, it definitely peaked at 2 and then kind of leveled off. I don't think 3 is as good as 2, but it definitely wasn't like a steep decline. It just kind of like, okay, this isn't as good. And then
I think if you would change some of the plot, like I would probably want to see more of like the prison camp stuff in 4.
Okay.
Like to just like follow the people that are.
This is the thing I don't understand actually. If you do know, let us know. Why are the machines taking prisoners?
Yeah.
They're not using the whole battery tech of the Matrix, so are they just killing them?
I mean, there are a lot of things that irritate me about like what the machines do and can do and should be able to do. It's like
they got thermal vision.
Yeah, they got infrared vision. I'm like, humans should just not be able to hide from that. They would have to be way.
They're better at night. I'm like, they'll be pretty good at daytime too.
It's like you are a lot warmer than just concrete. Like, I mean, yes, it
sunny.
does. I guess that's why they're in the desert, because like the sand does heat up to be hotter.
I presume everything's desert as well now.
Yeah,
but also they need to get their numbers right, because in every film they say that the nuclear fallout kills 3 billion people. It would kill more than 3 billion people. Like, you could hit India and China with a couple nukes and you've killed more than 3 billion people.
Yeah.
So,
but it's Russia and America,
they don't name drop Russia in the later films.
Yeah.
Because of course Russia's the enemy, because they send the nukes at Russia, the American nukes at Russia, then Russia responds by destroying the entire world.
I'm sure that's just like realism, because that's where they are
in the 80s. 100%. But I like how they just kind of subtly name drop.
It's like, it's not this anymore.
They avoid it later films, just like, they sent nukes and the world retaliated, and you're like, the world?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess that's also having to believe in what the films tell you, that the machines aren't that good. But I'm like, if you go through that thought experiment, if there's an actual AI that learns to think for itself like a human brain can, and has the capabilities of what machines are capable of, we would not stand a chance.
No.
Like, no way.
But they do, because they're the Resistance.
Yes.
They have... Oh, fine.
What they have is hope.
Another thing, though, that it just doesn't really... You just suspend disbelief, I think.
Mm.
It's fine. It makes for a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I didn't like the prison camp stuff as much, because I just got annoyed that they're taking prisoners.
Yeah, that's true.
But also, I think it's the least fleshed out. I think Kyle Reese is a good character.
Mm-hmm.
He's a similar match to, not in terms of aesthetics,
Yeah.
to the first film, but in terms of mannerisms, you can see how that is a younger Kyle Reese. You know, he's savvy. He gets by. So yeah, no, I
good stuff.
I liked
also good way, how they tie the characters together. Like, they do all meet, so we all they know of each other, which is really cool. Like, they've all met in some way, so that really works. I don't know. It's the way they up the action with like bigger machines, bigger HKs with multiple flying devices within it
it's
and
the
stuff.
Killers, in case you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, I don't know. It is kind of weird. It feels very Transformer-esque.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the similar CG qualities. I think the visual effects in this film really hold up. And in terms of Transformers looking photorealistic, even, 13 years later, I think this Terminator film does a good job with that too. Yeah. It's the very similar kind of metal aesthetic. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Maybe as a standalone film, it could be as good as T2. I'm not sure.
I think, T2 obviously gets props for just being revolutionary. You know, I think anyone could make a similar apocalypse film. Mm-hmm. Like, that's definitely not the first one to do it.
Oh yeah, if you factor in when T2 was made,
it's incredible. So I think if T2 was made now, it wouldn't be anything special.
No. That's true.
Like, it's good. It's really good. It holds up well, and it's still my favorite in the franchise. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, there's plenty of good action films now, you know, that have good, like, Real Steel has a good relationship between a kid and an adult. I mean, the action might not be as good, but you've got other films that do it. Yeah. I think, like, actually that's another franchise of Arnie, is Predator. Doesn't quite hold up as well. You've not seen it? Have you seen any of them?
No.
Interesting. Okay, well, for you, the audience.
Yeah. And for me, the audience.
I think, personally, I prefer Predators to Predator, because it's the reboot with Adrian Brody. So they do a good job of not following the same tropes of having like a super muscly protagonist, instead just having someone that's good with guns. The action Predator doesn't hold up as well. I think it's not as scary as like the first Terminator film even. So to kind of update that with more scary Predators, and you've got the humans versus humans dynamic, and the action is much more up to date. I'm like, I'm down for that. I didn't see The Predator, though, I must admit. Like, the last one? I don't know what they're on. 5,
So it's
6.
Predator, Predators, and The Predator?
No, it's Predator, Predator 2. Maybe a third one? I don't think there's a third one. Predators, and then The Predator.
Oh, man.
It's a good nomenclature.
I think Terminator does it better. It's like Terminator, Terminator 2, and they always have like some kind of thing that's
it's got a subtitle and the number for sure. No, I think
some kind of distinction, please.
Some kind of distinction. But no, I think T2 did a really good job and holds up well enough that it stands apart.
Yes.
For me.
Shall we move on to the? Now the good stuff is over. The goods are over, gone and away. And yes.
Wow.
Honestly, it's been a long time, like a good number of years since I've had such an emotional response to a film.
Not in a good way.
Because I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed at how bad this film was.
It's one of the worst films I've seen for sure. That isn't meant to be bad, you know? Like, you watch The Room knowing it's terrible. Or a B-tier action film being like, you know, it's fine, it's passable. Like Triple Frontier on Netflix is fine. It's not special, it's not great, it's not bad, but it's just fine. Whereas I think you have an expectation of a Terminator franchise, especially with Salvation, which Obviously didn't do great at the box office, but it's a very good film.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe that was the mistake to have those expectations.
Well, yeah, you go in thinking it's a Terminator film, and it is awful. But why is it awful? What was your main problem with it?
There's so many things. No, but like, I think now we can pick up the issues with time travel again. Time travel,
yeah.
Because the plot is all over the place with that.
So, I think, if you've been following along,
yeah,
they do a good job of, one, Sarah Connor survives and copulates with Kyle Reese. They have John Connor.
Copulate.
T2,
yeah.
John Connor survives.
Yes.
Arnie dies.
They take the CPU chip and stuff.
No, they're all burnt. They're all burnt away.
Yeah.
And they destroy Skynet.
Yeah.
However, Skynet's inevitable as far as the movie rules go. So T3, the military have a kind of equivalent Skynet. Right? Yes. It is actually still Skynet, but it's different.
Yeah, so it just took more time for them to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a bit later. He thinks he's dodged Judgment Day, but he's a bit unsure. You know, he's always scared of being hunted. They end up getting misled to a bunker where they think they can shut everything down, but they don't. They survive. Judgment Day happens.
Yes.
T4, you've got post Judgment Day. I don't think they deal with, but the prequel of
basically
the future that we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, how did Kyle Reese and John Connor meet?
Yeah.
That's essentially the only huge plot thing that happens. And then the destruction of Skynet, and you see the Terminator go back.
Yes.
So that's kind of the start of that, and obviously we know something else has to happen. Like Skynet still has to be around.
So those 4 films are basically the loop.
They're the full loop. You know, that's very well contained. We've got everything doing well.
Yes.
And then somehow T5 has Sarah Connor again with an old Terminator killing Terminators that are coming back to kill her in the first film, but she's well trained.
Yeah. I don't it starts with John Connor sending back Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like,
but he gets something.
The beginning of T1 you would kind of expect, but while they're sending him back, there's a Terminator who's attacking John Connor, and that messes up Kyle Reese's time travel, and while he's time traveling he gets close to like alternate futures and can therefore gets like memories of him,
of the past that wasn't but is now,
so he's like woo, I don't know. And then he arrives in the past, which is a different past because
stuff's changed.
For whatever reason, we know, or we're told that
do we ever find out who sends Arnold back?
No, we're not told, but we know that. Oh no, because Arnold is the same.
But he's old.
Yeah.
He must have been there before, but a friendly one. But I don't think we ever find out who sends him back.
No, we never find out who sends him back. Because there's a different Terminator who killed Sarah Connor's parents when she was a kid, so they sent Terminators back into an earlier future to assassinate Sarah Connor, but then Arnie saves her, so Arnie must have been sent back, being already reprogrammed.
I'm not sure.
Probably. No,
it can't be John.
No, because
that it's a different. At least this is the thing. So time travel films, they always find themselves in a loop. Hence the title of Looper, which is time travel. And there's a weird start that you can't ever really get to, and you find yourself in the loop, and that's cool. And then eventually, I guess, they pop out.
Yeah.
The problem with this film is it loops to a different future.
Yeah.
And then you've got a problem. That's like a real, like, you are breaking the own rules that you have set.
Yeah, so they have that loop, and then he goes back in time, and you have like a completely different set of like maybe touching in some things, like Arnold is there.
There's similarities.
Yeah, but like it's a completely different past. They end up in a completely different future, and that's just mad for them to like try and draw a line there, and you're like, this
I think as well
it
breaks the difference between time travel and multi-universe.
Yeah,
because you have to be like, okay, this is a different world now.
Yeah.
You know, the world that he lives in doesn't exist, will never happen, you know, and there's no way to change it. Like, that's done. and you're now in a new timeline, whereas at least the old ones were always you're affecting what's happening on this same plane. Whereas this is like you are in a completely different world.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem, is that they've broken their own time travel rules.
Yeah.
In such a like a ground base way.
Fundamental way.
Fundamental. Thank
yes.
you. Yeah,
something else that really bugged me was the performance, because I think Arnold's performance is actually one of the best,
and that's
of his
problematic
within the Terminator films. I think that is his best film.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's funny, but
a
still
lot of jokes
robot.
don't land.
Yeah, because I'm just like, overall my feeling is like, oh my god, what
I think
is
if
this?
you're not enjoying a film and then there's quippy dialogue and you're like,
you're just hating the quippiness of the dialogue.
You know, whereas I think 3 did a better job of that.
Yeah,
it was funnier. Whereas stuff in 5, I was like, yeah, I can get it, haha.
Yeah. I don't like
Emilia Clarke. No, she's not a good actress.
And I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that because it's you can't blame her for because what I'm getting from her is like a teenaged, probably right around 14, really annoying and moody attitude.
I think the accent doesn't help either because it's like very moody, I guess Midwest American.
No, but just like the stuff she says, I'm like, you are. Whew!
She looks too old for the character she's playing.
Yeah.
By like 20 years.
Yeah. But she should not be playing that character. And I don't think that's her fault because there's definitely a director who should be looking at that stuff.
I just don't think she can sell funny though. Like I don't think she's a funny person.
But then they shouldn't be selling funny. It's not the kind of movie that should be selling funny.
T3 did it fine though. I think there is the capacity for this film to be fine, especially again lower age rating.
But like jokes, yes, to break up the tension, yes, but it's not a funny film. Please,
oh, it's definitely not.
Please, guys, don't.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of John Connor in this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think Christian Bale did a much better job. I think he's a bit.
John. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's old John Connor. Yeah.
Well, older.
Yeah, I guess yeah.
But not old enough to not justify casting Christian Bale again. I don't know if he was busy. But
I don't mind.
I didn't like his performance as much either.
I mean, it's hard to go up against Christian Bale, but like I would say I don't mind. That was definitely not an issue for me.
Okay, it was just a recasting. I was like, whereas Emilia Clarke, okay, not the actress I would choose, but in terms of you need to cast Sarah Connor as somebody, you know, you obviously can't do Linda Hamilton again because you've messed the timelines up.
Yeah.
So, you know, fine, has to be recast, whereas John Connor doesn't. It's like, okay, Christian Bale is still alive and well and young.
It's so cringy when Cal Reese, like in the future, gets out the picture of Sarah Connor.
Oh,
it's just
no!
It's like the perfect reenactment of the picture they make in 1 and 2 and whatever.
Yeah.
But with Emilia Clarke, and you're like, no, just.
I guess they're doing that. I mean, she's also like a brunette, which doesn't, like, she doesn't look anything like Sarah Connor in the previous films. So you just again have to kind of go. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way
I don't know.
It is.
Issues.
The action in the film is subpar. The plot is all over the place.
I don't know, there are just like so many little decisions like that could have been done better. Why is that? Again, so many things where I'm like, that should not be. Like the machine should definitely win because like he's
overpowered.
I don't know what he is. Like they don't really explain it. It's like he's.
And they replaced every cell on his body.
Yes, he's machine on a cellular basis.
But it is still John. Somehow.
It's like, excuse me?
It's like, the one thing we've always lost is they've had John, so now we have John. But he's not really John because he obviously thinks like a machine now.
Yeah. And the Terminator that got to him in the future was actually Skynet.
It was Doctor Who. Guaranteed.
I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then they stuff like the scene when they are in underground and they try to get the Terminator with the acid. Oh. You know, so they have like barrels.
Was that in that film?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have barrels of acid just like suspended
and she
from the
shoots
ceiling,
them.
and they have like a Terminator is coming towards her, and she like shoots the barrels,
You're
so
like,
the acid
This is
starts
a pre-made
dripping.
plan. I'm like, your plan was to shoot the barrels.
Yes, so it like showers down acid on this Terminator.
Oh.
It's stuff like that. It's like you are planning these things for years. You get weapons, like they have a bunker that is full of weapons,
They just do.
and then it's like John Connor, the machine John Connor, arrives and is just like, how did you think I would not know where this place is? Because you've obviously taken me as a kid. If you go through the whole loop of futures and past and stuff,
Yeah.
you've obviously taken me here. I'm like, that is it's so many things.
One thing I will say,
Yes.
this one's general, I thought the chemistry between Jai Courtney's Kyle Reese
Mm-hmm.
and Sarah Connor, Amelia Clark,
Yeah.
was actually not bad.
It was not bad.
Like, I was like, okay, I can sell these guys as kind of, they start to like each other, but then like, oh no, we can't because then we'll give birth to Super Terminator John. Fine. You know, I was like, you know what, I buy it for what it is. It's a bit 12 rated cringe.
I gotta say, it's way more annoying though than Terminator 3, where they are told like,
Yes.
you are gonna be a couple in
It's
the
the
future,
same. It's
and
just
and
the
then they're
same.
like, okay, this is awkward knowing basically what our future will look like, but they don't like it. It's not really shown how that ends and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in 5, they do like
It's
not
very
hate each other,
Disney.
but like they go all like ew and we don't want this, but then they do end up together. I'm like, that is so cheesy and annoying.
It's cheesy and annoying, but also I felt it was right for the characters. It's very predictable writing. This is not a good movie.
So predictable.
But in terms of like the actual chemistry they have,
Yeah.
it was fine. It's definitely not the worst offender of the
No.
they end up together at the end of the film.
But the
because
fact
they have
that it
to.
is an additional offender is just like,
Oh yeah, it's a terrible,
Adds to
terrible movie. Miss it. And the thing is, I think you can miss it because Terminator
Absolutely.
6 is a sequel to Terminator 2
yes.
somehow.
Yeah.
So I think again, timeline. It is. They go back to the original timeline,
Yes.
but they just completely retcon 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And by extension 5, because 5 shouldn't exist. First time I saw it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Same for you, obviously.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it.
No, was alright.
It was fine.
It was funny. I think it definitely had some
Don't
funny
remember
moments.
laughing, but okay.
No, but like in terms of Terminator, like
Sarah Connor was quite witty.
yeah,
I thought, yeah, she had some good lines.
Yeah.
But
Arnie, I think I think one of the very underrated jokes is when he says, I'm carrying blah 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 and I'm extremely funny. But he says it like so deadpan,
very deadpan.
and no one else reacts to it. I'm like, that's actually
it was
funny.
good, right? Okay.
Like, cause you're not sure if Arnold like means it in a
I'm definitely it was
in a
meant to hit you.
sarcasm. Like, is
I'm
it sarcasm?
extremely funny.
Yeah, but it's so up in the air and no one reacts to it. So I think that was my favorite line.
My favorite line of the film. I think I actually should be said the VFX in that film are tip top.
Yes.
Because I did mean to say in Genesis they somehow have young Arnie looking worse than Terminator 4 Arnie.
Yeah.
Which I don't. How did you manage that?
Mm-hmm.
You had money, infinite money essentially, but fine. Terminator 6, the visual effects are great. I really like that aesthetic of just like the liquid, but it's like tar. It's like
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
like
a
black.
titanium melting
Yeah.
Terminator. My problem is he is beyond immortal.
Yeah.
So like the Terminator or Rev 9?
Rev 9, yeah.
Rev 9 because they rewrote the future
Yep.
somehow.
They did. Because John
is-
dies.
Yeah, but he can duplicate himself, and after every injury is fully formed.
Well, here's the thing. He is a combination of the liquid body we've seen in T2 and 3, as well as the endoskeleton,
Oh,
which T1 is basically. And so he
Yeah.
can split the two, so he's a metal endoskeleton
And a
Terminator
frame.
and a
Which
frame.
I think is cool as a thing, but for me, like so obviously the metal frame in T1 and all the Arnie's take damage, for sure, and the liquid metal starts to like glitch out in T2. You see like his feet start to morph into the floor, and he grabs like the handrail, and his hand transforms. And he's like, okay, no, he's glitching out. He's taking some hits.
Yeah.
Whereas until he dies, the Terminator in Terminator 6 is just immortal.
And honestly, they've always upped how that Terminator dies, like from crushing him to melting him to having to like blow him up like properly or whatever. To just, I don't know what it was, to have him shredded by a spinning, I don't know if that was a generator or something.
They just took him out, and then they had to use the power core, and then Arnie did something, I think. I can't remember.
It's just like, it's a bit weird.
It's a bit odd.
It definitely didn't seem like they had to do something even.
I think the problem they have is, for like liquid metal, the answer does seem to be lava. Because they cover the acid doesn't work, so it's like, okay, lava, but then you can't redo 2-2.
Yeah.
So
no, I think maybe the problem isn't that how they do it in the end, but they have this plan of fighting him for like the last half hour for sure, and not a single plan includes how to actually beat him.
Yeah, they're just like, this is where we face off, and it's like, there's a girl with a chain and a couple of shotguns. We know like these bullets are useless.
Yeah.
He just eats them up. So. Sure, I don't really know. Then there's this spinny thing where like that's the only thing that's ever going to do any damage, and then they use the girl's power core to actually knock him out. So fine, but it's then he gets impaled.
Why they not use Arnie's core from the beginning? Because
we know that Arnie's core is a nuclear bomb. Yeah, and so we can't use that because then everyone will die.
So her core is just like an EMP.
It's like an EMP. Yeah.
I do wonder why they never used that beforehand in like any of the other films, because an EMP would be such an easy solution.
But they didn't think about it.
Or the machines just don't run on electricity.
Yeah, they use human souls.
Yes.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
No, I think the film's more than passable.
There's some very problematic things. It was like when she, the augmented human, arrives. Grace, yeah, she's the good guy, and we kind of can tell because she doesn't
kill any of the cops.
Anyone. Yeah.
Whereas they keep that vague in T2, so it's better. But fine.
Yes.
So you know straight away she's fine.
She's good, and then we see the Terminator spawn into the past, and I was like, this is a bit problematic that the Mexican guy is obviously the bad guy.
I'm curious why they chose the change of setting. My first guess was that it's cheaper to film not in America.
Well, they explain it like that Sarah Connor is wanted in.
Oh no! In terms of in universe, fine.
Yeah.
But like from a film standpoint, a lot of the cast is Latino.
Yeah.
And I was wondering that, but the budget for this film was more than T5. So, I mean, somehow, I don't know how they managed to wrangle that budget, because T5 was a disaster. But I think it's interesting that they went for that choice, and
I think they have
no problem with it. But
more action throughout the film, and most of the action is CG.
Oh, that's definitely how they spent the money, for sure. But it's interesting they decided not to spend on the actors, presumably, whereas paying for Sam Worthington and Christian Bale was presumably very expensive. And even Emilia Clarke is not a cheap actress to hire.
No.
And Jack Courtney as well, actually. Whereas I assume the cast of T6 did not get paid as well, except Arnie and maybe Linda Hamilton.
Arturito, our friend from Money Heist.
Oh, bringing back those memories.
Very short.
Gets a wee bit. He dies. Very sad.
Very sad.
No, I think Linda Hamilton did a good job. I've not seen her in anything since T2. And I think considering she was written out of T3 as having leukemia and dying off screen sometime,
she definitely got to a good age.
But like it's interesting to actually see what would happen if she didn't, I guess, and John died instead. I was okay with that.
No, I'm totally fine with that being a different because then that is a much smarter way to leave that loop.
You're just changing history. Like the loop changes rather than it's just essentially drawing the curve of the loop slightly earlier on. So yeah, no, I thought it was good. The action was cool. There's a lot of good fight scenes in that actually, like when they're breaking out the detainees. I was like, no, this is good. There's no
it
stakes.
feels very real.
Yeah.
And definitely also that bit of commentary on just like America with like where the prisoners, they are detainees. And you're like, yeah,
sure,
okay, Border Patrol.
I also think the other commentary that I felt a bit ham-fisted was when Sarah Connor's like, "You're the new me. You're gonna give birth to the man that saves us all," and you're sitting there like, "No, she's not." And then they say it like a couple times. They really hammer it home, and then she's like, "No, you are the leader," and she's like, "Oh." I was like,
that's very predictable.
Obvious. Yeah. Sure. I think like the message is the same if you don't hammer it home.
Yeah.
If you don't punch it in the audience's face. Personally, I would have preferred that because obviously we're fine. We're obviously okay with heroines. Like Sarah Connor's a badass.
I mean, has been 3 badasses,
for
female
many
badasses.
movies. Yeah. I mean, you got all the 3 leads are females. So like, there's no problem with that. Obviously, so to be like, you're gonna give birth to the man, you're like, no, film, we know what you're doing. Like, don't be obvious about it. Just do it.
And it's like, you're John, and it's like, no, you're me. I'm like, that's not a huge reveal. I'm sorry.
Of course not. She is short though.
Very short.
Like she's, I think, because they cast such a tall actress for Grace, and then such a short one for the main character, Danny. I remember the name.
Yes, please. If you're gonna have someone be called nickname, don't introduce her every single time as Daniela or Danielle or whatever it is.
And she says it every time.
Every time.
There's like this plot device where the Terminator's after her and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for Daniela," and her dad's like, "Oh, her friends call her Danny." And you're like, okay, cool.
Got that now.
And every time she introduces herself, she's like Daniela or Danny. And you're like, well, you obviously go by Danny, so just say.
Yeah, just say Danny.
Maybe it was too like they'd think like Daenerys. Get Emilia Clarke back.
They have to explain that
Connection
it's not Danny.
Confirmed. It's like it's not her. She's John, not Sarah Connor.
Oh yoy. No, she is Sarah Connor. So,
no, she's not. She's John Connor. She's like the leader.
Yeah, but she is not. She's not giving birth to the leader.
Which is what Sarah Connor did.
So she is Sarah Connor as.
John Connor's leader, Sarah Connor gives birth to the leader.
Okay, she is John.
Yeah.
Yes.
They did say that in the film.
Yeah, that's true. No, I messed it up.
No, yeah.
That is true.
Sarah Connor just becomes a badass that randomly hunts Terminators, so that's okay.
Mm.
Like, it's cool. I think the only other line that really bugged me in that was when they're like, "What's Skynet? I've never heard of that." And it's like, "Oh, what's in your future?" It's like, well, there's this corporation called Legion that did the exact same thing that you just described Skynet did. Like, I'm sure they can draw the dots together and go, "Oh, no, that sounds very similar to Legion," rather than like, "That's ridiculous." Yeah. And then it's like, their future is identical with a different company.
Yeah,
You're like,
no, it's funny to be like, what is the name of the company? It's like, that is not the first thing I would ask. I would ask, like, what is it? What does it do? So, because the name then is like...
It's irrelevant.
Yeah. Legion. Yes.
Now it
Legion.
all makes sense.
Now.
Like, does it?
What is it? It's a Rev 9. No, it's a Terminator. Like, no, it's a killing machine. Like, it doesn't matter.
Whatever. Like,
yeah.
Who cares? I don't think that was actually necessary. Like, they could have just had Skynet again. Like, I would have been fine, and a T whatever.
I guess if it's like a whole new stuff, then yeah.
Sure.
Cyberdyne.
But yeah, definitely doesn't mess with the timeline. Good film. I don't think it's as good as 1, 2, or 4.
Ooh, that cracked. It might beat 1.
Okay.
But definitely not 2 and 4.
Definitely not 2 and 4. But it's fine. It's watchable. I don't think it did particularly great at the box office. But I think they need to up the age rating. Like all films like this.
Oh, yeah.
Just embrace it, Especially with, like, the success of Deadpool, Logan, and John Wick.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can do it, Have some blood in there. Just, I don't know. Because especially these films are quite gritty action films.
Yeah.
And then to kind of resort to people punching each other is like, okay.
I did like that the Terminator didn't have like actual weapons like in Terminator 3, but like only he could make his hands swords, hand kind of things.
I think he threw one of his hands at one point.
Yeah,
but that's acceptable.
Yeah, because it's still using just the material.
Yeah.
Definitely cool thing like when he gets huddled by all these guys.
I mean,
and
it's
you
in the
can just
trailer,
go
so I
like
didn't know it was coming. But yeah, it, like spikes out his body like a hedgehog. I was like,
That is cool.
Down for this. But it'd be better with a bit more dismemberment and a bit more blood because everyone loves that.
And you wouldn't just see them like sticking out, but you would actually see
Yes.
the devastation afterwards.
Yes, for sure. And also with blood, make sure you either use physical blood or render all the CG blood.
Yes.
Yeah. The
So-
blood needs to come out and fall. It doesn't disappear.
It needs to land somewhere.
Oh dear. But no, I think that's the Terminator franchise.
That's kind of there.
It's a hard watch. Definitely, there are far better things to marathon if you're going to watch them all.
Yeah, I would just pick and choose.
For sure. I'm not sure I would go back, like, in terms of to rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'd go back to watch. Like, I think 1 is good for when it was made.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it now.
Probably not.
I would
now.
definitely go back to watch 2 and 4.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm too fussed about Dark Fate. I'd put it in the same kind of bracket as okay action films that are fine and passable. It continues the franchise fine.
Yeah.
And 5 I'm never watching again. I've seen it twice now. I don't want to see it again.
I was proper sad. Like, I was sad and disappointed.
It's a real shame. Like, they... I'm honestly, like, props to the studios for continuing the franchise.
Yeah.
Because it definitely could have just killed it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't, because...
I know. More often than not, that's the better choice, to just be like, we're cutting it here because...
I don't know what you're doing.
I
think there's but if you... I mean, maybe we'll do that next. Alien.
Mm.
Like, that goes downhill, 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 and then they just reinvent the franchise with the new films.
Okay, yeah.
So there's definitely ways to do that, but in terms of just continuing the story that was...
Yeah.
No.
Which they don't! It's a problem. But yeah.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Yeah, 2 and 4, the rest are fine.
Yeah.
Or terrible.
And if you really want to, the latest one, 6, I think is also...
And you don't need to see
definitely
5 ever, actually, because it messes the timeline as well, so you can just skip it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's our Terminator retrospective.
Exactly.
Hope you enjoyed. We look forward to watching Terminator 7.
Yes. If you disagree, definitely leave it in the comments below.
Let us know why.
If
What
you
is
do
the greatest
agree.
80s action franchise that's still running?
Yeah.
Because you got Predator, Terminator, Alien. They're all still going. Commando didn't do so well. Alas. But yeah, no, I think that's us. We watched some cool Netflix films for our next airing it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Some proper Netflix originals,
Oh.
maybe.
Yikes. But no,
But yeah, that's it.
if you liked it, leave a like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah. And click the bell icon, guys, because
Already,
we are on a roll with our videos, and you don't want to miss any of them.
Yeah, every day, an hour of your day is spent listening to our beautiful voices.
Yes, I mean, you don't have anything better to do. We know it because neither
We don't
do
either.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.